In regard to Jesse and Frank James, my grandfather was personally acquainted with them. He lived in the southern edge of Baxter County, Arkansas, and they stayed all night with him lots of nights. And my grandfather told me there was a lot of those robberies that was laid to Jesse and Frank James, and he knew that they didn't do it because they was at his place when it happened. But you couldn't tell the public that. When they get their mind made up that somebody's done something, why, the public is going to stick to it anyway. Now, my grandfather, he knew them as boys, and he wasn't helping hide them or anything, but he was already hid. Now, they could come to his place and go without anybody paying any attention, because nobody expected them down in Arkansas, you see. And when things would get hot, they would come off down here in the mountains, and they would stay at my grandfather's. Now, that's the story that my grandfather told me when I was just a boy. I've heard him tell it several different times. And he said that Frank James, at that World Fair, I think it was 1901 in St. Louis, him and Frank both were there. He and Frank James were together there. And that Frank James offered to bring Jesse there alive. He said that Quantrell was the man that the Ford boys killed. It wasn't Jesse James at all. And but he was just about the size of Jesse, and he was red-headed, and he wasn't in a relation to the Ford. Jesse James was an own cousin to Charles and Bob Ford. That's what grandfather says now. He says Jesse and Frank were not even in that part of the country when Quantrell was killed. And then the Ford boys, they collected the $1,000 for killing Jesse James, and the officials accepted the man that they pointed out to him because the officials knew that they had been with him on some of the raids. That they did shoot Quantrell from behind. That is, they come in the room behind him, and when they looked around, why, they shot him. He didn't have a gun on him. He'd pulled his gun off and hung it on the foot of the bed and was putting up a picture there, according to the song that come down to us. Jesse James, we understand, has killed many a man, robbed a Texas train, and the dirty little coward that killed Johnny Howard laid Jesse James in his grave. Oh, Jesse had a wife, she lived a lady all her life. His children, they were brave, but the dirty little coward that shot Johnny Howard laid Jesse James in his grave. It was on a Saturday night, the stars were shining bright. They robbed a Denver train. It was one of the younger boys that gathered in the spoils, and they carried the money away. Oh, Jesse had a wife, she lived a lady all her life. The children, they were brave, and the dirty little coward that shot Johnny Howard laid Jesse James in his grave. He was standing on a chair, a dozen pictures there. Thought he heard a noise, and as he turned his head, the bullet killed him dead, and they laid Jesse James in his grave. Oh, Jesse had a wife, she lived a lady all her life. His children, they were brave, but the dirty little coward that shot Johnny Howard laid Jesse James in his grave. Now, you see, when we start on this song, why, we say we understand. That's the story that's been told, don't you see? But now, us people, a lot of these people in the mountains don't believe.